guardian angel. I'll be with you throughout time. You never have to be afraid. Your problems are not mine. And when I hold you in my arms, I keep you from any harm. Your tears will melt away, 'cause your angel's here to stay.
Know it to be true.
So you didn't understand. No, I get a room and I cook food here. Yeah, for the room. I cook food and I clean. I don't rent a room. I cook food and I clean for the room, but I have to pay electricity. No. I get money from my father. But my father says he's gonna cut me off.
I'm that angel in you. I'm that angel in you.
Truth, I need you to tell me how I can get nut job money. You know what that is? You know, nut job money for being mentally sick. Do you have a number on that? Well, anyway, because the truth is, my problem is because of not just the state, but it's the whole country. You know, there's a worldwide blackball was created. Have you ever heard of the Night of the Left? But that's all part of the reason I have to get food stamps.
Your heart is my home, and from the bottom of your soul, know that's your home. Know it to be true. I'm that angel in you. I'm that angel in you.
Blackball has started around December 27, 2000s. And I can prove the blackball is, so it's either they have to give me food, well, it's all part of what the state and the country did to me.
Know it to be true. I'm that angel in you. You'll never be alone. Your heart is my home, and from the bottom of your soul, know that you're whole. Know it to be true. I'm that angel in you. I'm that angel in you.
Yeah, I mailed it in, but I also, that paper I did online is more thorough. I know it did.
My door, my arms, my heart are open. Open for you. I've made so many mistakes, and how I've learned, and how I've changed. And words cannot convey, no words cannot convey how sorry I am, and how I feel. My love is unconditional, it's all of me. Everything I am and all I want to be. I want to give to you, to give, to give, to give, to give. My door, my arms, my heart are open.
Hello? Hello, hello.
For you,
Hello?
everywhere.
Hello, hello. Hello? Hello? Good morning from the one and only King of all kings. To you, my dear, to you. Who always keeps right. With the one and only love, and the one and only light. And I'm down here in the undear and unclear to cause sin, or is it cause sin? Or is it not cause sin? For all the junk down here, for all the garbage collectors. For all my children who cause sin. Hello. Notice hello. Hell, low. Is anything lower than hell? Is there anything lower than anybody could think of than burning forever and ever? Would God, who's supposedly not a fraud, burn any of his children that cause sin forever and ever? Would the one and only clever lever do that to anyone? Even his cat would not have. For saying shit, fuck, cock, pussy, a motherfucker. Hogan, which rhymes with slogan. Who wrote those ugly, smugly, fugly, despicable, deplorable, horrible, immoral slogans? Full of hate. In other words, if you believe all those lines in the Bible, in the Menorah Torah, in the Iran, Koran, and all the rest of the supposed religious and spiritual books, which were rewritten by crooks and more than any schnooks, all in the library, full of more than any scary theory. Far more scary than a godzillion times a godzillion dirty Harrys. And Timothy Leary's. Those theories. And what's the common denominator in each one of those spiritual and so-called religious books rewritten by snooks and crooks? Rewritten by the smitten. And you notice this morning, the one and only king of all kings is pointing the camera towards the heavens. Or is it towards heaven? Because there's only one and only, not two, or three or four. In other words, there's only one creator without debater of the heaven and the earth. But you see, it's heaven, but there's earth. In other words, there's 11 other solar systems. And solar rhymes with the one and only star of all stars. And so I, the one and only creator without debater, to tell you the truth, and part of my more than any spoof, I am a hater towards all creeples, not people, that aren't like Peter, and the one and only smart, and the one and only heart. In other words, you cannot part from the one and only smart, the one and only heart. More than 5% of the time. Or with me, the one and only, you become slime. And the lower and lower and lower you go. I have a speed limit. And it's not 30%. And the one and only cater and the one and only creator. With the one and only creator. You have to be 95% in the one and only smart, in the one and only heart. When you come down there to the undear and unclear earth. And more than obviously, I am here to give her back her total mirth and rebirth by getting rid of all these cars and trucks. That's right, even these big trucks, which I call fucks. Me, the one and only. Creator without debater. I am here through Pater, but I'm also down here in the undear and unclear, more than obvious. Not through Pater. In other words, I could go wherever I want to go. But when I do these 26 Nawal Kapal humanly impossible gifts and riffs, those gifts and riffs I do through Peter. Sweeter Peter Palpin. More than obviously just the skin that I, the one and only, just jumping. And this is more than any obvious to any human being. Seeing, because seeing is believing, but also hearing. In this case, in space, in every place, about this kiss of bliss is also part of this more than obvious pure kiss of unadulterated bliss from the one and only mystified and blistified. And I am full of more than any pride, but not snide. In other words, you cannot quarrel with a moral. And so every single solitary thing that I say in fillet, without delay, every day, all day, through the skin of sweeter Peter Paladin, you cannot quarrel with one of my more than obvious morals. And a moral is more than floral, and you can't quarrel with a moral floral. In other words, a moral is a right, brighter than any bright, always, always, always right, with all my more than any insight. And it ignites when you hear it or when you see it. All from me, the one and only wit kit. Nobody can do this kiss of bliss 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, like this here. And that is more than obviously perfectly clear, my undears and unclears. And also some of you dears and clears to me, the one and only. Those of you who aren't jealous and envious from what I do through the skin and to the skin of sweeter Peter Paladin. But all of you know now, wow, kapow, I don't just do things ring-a-ding-ding to the skin of sweeter Peter Paladin, and even through the skin of sweeter Peter Paladin. But I also have been hitting up not just my pup. I've been hitting up the uglies and the smugglies and the down wrong fugglier than any fugglies. Me, the one and only love, the one and only light, and the one and only way that can fillet and fillet and fillet and fillet the love, the light, the love, the bright, and the one and only way, the one and only way. And for the first time ever, the one and only clever lever is not private. In other words, everybody is hearing and even seeing the one and only wit kit, the one and only love, the one and only light, full of more than all this any insight, the one and only way. And there is only one way, there is only one way to have it great without debate. When you come back down there again, and you see how I make it seem like sweeter Peter Paladin thought of that clever lever line, or was it not that clever lever? But you see, nobody can act like me, the one and only. And so that's acting, or is it reacting? All by me, the one and only king of all kings. And you see, I say the one and only king of all kings, because there are other kings down there in the undear and unclear. And that's a met 11 sent from heaven of an eagle, a regal eagle. And so you see, sweetheart Peter Palapin in his last lifetime down here in the undear and unclear. He was flying eagle, the regal, not eagle, the regal Indian chief, warrior of the Algonquin Indians. And he was a beautiful, not rutiful soul who never, ever, 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 ever played the mightier than thou role and the unholy would roll. And so he just told me telepathically, come on, Dad, don't talk about me, sweetie Petey. It'll sound egotistical, and I don't care about me. I don't care what they say about me. I don't care what they fillet about me. In other words, I don't care about what they write about me. And so you see how I make it sound like he's thinking of the next clever line to shine. But it's all me, the one and only. And it's more than obvious. More than obvious. In other words, I call it making a mistook or a mistake or taking a break in the action from more than any action Jackson. For me, the more than obvious, one and only God Almighty in this modern day reality. And so when I say everybody can see me, the one and only invisible, I'm visible because of what I do through the skin of sweeter Peter Palvin. And if anybody can't see that, what I do through that cat in that hat is humanly impossible. Mission impossible. And on top of all that, once that cat in the hat gets on worldwide TV for all the world to see, every single solitary show, yo, that we do, he'll sit on a modern day lie detector test and attest to everything that you've heard me say and fillet. In all of our movies, more than appropriately titled. Not 11 sent from heaven. Everything you always wanted to know about heaven, but did not know who to ask. In all of our CDs, the real love-versations, not conversations. With the love, the bright, and the one and only way. The one and only way that can fillet and fillet and fillet all day and all night. Me, the one and only light house. But I also could be the one and only light louse. If you can't stay and play like Mighty Mouse. And the one and only smart. And the one and only heart. And if you can't do that, then as Grandma Grody used to say, without delay, every day. Schmata. Which rhymes with smarter. Schmata. But if you're not smarter than the one and only harder, then in your next lifetime, if you're ugly, smugly, and fugly enough, in other words, if you really don't have any of the right stuff, you will have it more than rough and more than tough. And you'll be wearing schmata, which, as I said, rhymes with no harta. And so maybe you'll be living in Jakarta. But not for having no heart. Because even if you live in New York or Newport, you can have an unbearable and more than any terrible life of sheer and utter strife. Strike you like a godzillion times a godzillion, sharper than any knife. Or is it knives, which rhyme with lies? And so all these clever lines, they will shine throughout the rest and test of time. They're all mine. They're all mine. The one and only divine. The one and only sublime. The one and only being that can shine like this. Kiss of pure, unadulterated bliss. All day, every day, without delay. 365 days a week. Me, the one and only seek. Through peace. And I will repeat, through peace, through that beautiful, Narutiful heartbeat that I call Pete, or Sweetie Pete, or Sweeter Peter Palp, more than obviously just the skin, that I, the one and only, God Almighty, not Aphrodite, God Almighty, in this modern day reality, just jump in. Or maybe I slide in. But obviously I don't hide. And I have no snide. But as I said, without regret, you can more than any bet. And I am setting my record straight without debate through Kate. And it's called the verse of the universe. And it is not perverse. And if you're ugly, smugly, and down wrong, fuglier than any fuck, it is a more than any curse. And if you don't pass your 111 year at best test, then you will come back down there. To the undear and unclear. And I'm making this more than any perfectly clear. And you will go back down there to the undear and unclear. with an uglier face, an uglier way. Every other space and place. A far worse, funny way to make your money. And a far, far ungrander honey on the outside and on the inside. And on the inside, whoever you're with, or even not with, will be full of more than snide and pride. But not more than any snide and pride. It all depends on how ugly and smugly and fugly you were. This is all for goddamn sure. From the one and only cure, and the one and only pure. In other words, the one and only soul station. The one and only vibration. The one and only full of more than any indignation. One nation under God, not under fog. And so the truth is, and part of my more than any spoof is, Peter's sweeter pal can, more than obviously, just the skin that I jump in. He has no idea what indignation is. To him it's just a word they use in showbiz, to show that they're a whiz. Or is it a wizard? Of vocabulary? Or is it a wizard of ideativity? Well, I, the one and only, can tell you, if you memorize words like a bird, you know, like a parrot, that bird you've heard, that memorizes up to 5,000 words, you've heard. And well, those are words that you read in a book full of bird hooks. And well, maybe it was written by a crook and a schnook. But that book happens to be true. That a parrot tree, or is it parrot 3 or 4 or 5? You know how they go, tree parrots. Yeah, I want 3 parrots. Is it 3 or tree? Or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7? All the birds are sent from heaven. And so birds get to fly high in the sky. And so why didn't I, the one and only, have people, creepos fly? Of course I, the one and only source, can do that. In other words, when you come back here to the dear and clear part of the spirit world, you can fly, like Superman. You don't even have to wave your arms. You just fly, like Superman. And you can fly from New York to Los Angeles. But up here it's not called Los Angeles. It's not even called Los Angeles. It's called Angels. No list. Because everybody up here in the dear and clear part of the spirit world, they're all angels to me, the one and only. In other words, there's no such thing as an angel like you people and even creepos down there used to think. Oh, there's an angel looking over my shoulder. There's no angel. And no spirit or human being, once they get to the spirit world, can do anything. And there's no ghosts that roast and toast or even boast down there in the undear and unclear. And so these are all things that people will find out from me, the one and only. In other words, I can tell all of you everything, me, the one and only king of all kings. But you'll learn how I work through the skin of sweeter Peter Pal. Some things I'll tell, and some things I won't tell. In other words, Peter knows I can just go to any casino, yo. And I can walk out with the bank. Walk out with the bank. And that casino would tank. And we would go, thank you. Thank you. True blue. In other words, we've done it. Sweeter Peter Palpin and me, the one and only Whitkid. But he goes, Dad, I know you're not going to do it. Because you see, I tell Sweetie Petey, he won the lottery by being graced with this amazing and blazing lifetime that is about to more than any shine because of me, the one and only sublime and the one and only divine that can shine and 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 shine all day, every day. Only the love, the light, the love, the bright, in the one and only way could go on and on and on and on like this all day, every day. And many of you can realize through kind eyes, if you listen and glisten to me, the one and only, I can be very interesting, especially if what I'm saying and spraying is true. And it is all true. From the one and only master healer, yogi and true guru. And so if you want to come back another lifetime and have a house at the edge of some ocean or river or lake, you cannot be a fake. Make no mistake about it, me, the one and only Whitkid, who more than obviously is not a fake. If you want to be able to afford a sailboat to float, for my vote of love for this, not conflict, then you have to be with me in the one and only lighthouse. Again, you cannot be a louse. If you want a beautiful, Naruto-ful boat to float around in the sound and listen to the water pound. And so does anybody really think this is Peter Paul Mounds? Pounding out these sounds, expounding on life. He did come up with the word Smythe, S-M-I-T-H-E for success. This is the key. If you want to stand upon the crest, Smythe's the key to your success. Spirit, morals, imagination, truth, heart, and endure. Soon to be Mother Earth, more than obvious, vital cure. But that clever lines that more than shine are kind of from the divine, every line. But they weren't written or rewritten by a swine. They were written by Sweetie Petey. All from his one and only heart beating. And he never thought it was a big deal with all that feel and zeal. And nobody ever told Sweeter Peter that he's a great writer. Except one human being on this godforsaken planet. Maybe two, his twin brother like no other. Well, maybe three. The Kema Dilemma. She loved listening and glistening to Peter read his book, or even books, full of more than any rhyming and chiming hook. But he rarely wrote those books, which he said he channeled those books. And he did channel those books. But he didn't hear the clear channel. And there is only one and only clear channel. And there'll never be another clear channel to me or from me. Ever, ever again. Like right here and now, walk a pal through the skin of Sweeter Peter Powell. And so there's nothing more interesting than this kiss of bliss. If you're Sweeter Peter Powell. You see, Peter Sweeter was always interested. What's up in the sky? That kite boy. And so he would always toy around with the pound and the sounds in his one and only smart, his one and only heart. And he would never hear me, the one and only. But he would talk to me every night. But he never knew that I really existed and what I was about. He knew there must be a place we all go. And he figured maybe it's called heaven, because that's what it's called in all those books he thought in the library, full of more than the scary. Far more scary than a godzillion times a godzillion. Dirty Harry, and Timothy Larry, as I said. Sometimes like Barney and Fred, and sometimes like Freddy Krueger, that Luger. More than vulgar, that ogre. And so I am Mr. Bluebird on Sweeter Peter Palpin's boulder shoulder. Another gift and rift that people do want in a lifetime. Especially if you're a boy. Or even a man. You see, Sweeter Peter Pan, he never wanted to be a man. He wanted to be like Peter Pan. He would look at mans and even woman's and go, I never want to be a man. And I never want to be a woman. I want to be a boy. Mans and women's annoy me. They're ugly, smugly, and fugly. Not all of them, but a very high percentage of them to me, Sweetie Petey. I find them despicable, deplorable, horrible, ill-morable, not adorable in the one and only smart, in the one and only heart. And I find many of them prejudiced. Haters without debater. Hating other peoples, other humans, because of their albumin. And Peter could not believe this, that anybody on this God-forsaken planet could hate another human being that they're seeing because of the color of their skin. And on top of that, that cat in the hat, always fat, P-H-A-T, and the one and only smart, and the one and only heart, would say without delay to me, wondering if I could even hear him, Sweeter Peter Powell. But he always knew, he would say more than obviously, you're the one and only God Almighty. And you talk about praying in these books that he actually thought were rewritten by schnooks and crooks. But he thought in his one and only smart, his one and only heart. Of course God could hear everybody's thoughts. To him it was more than obvious, he thought, that cat in the hat. Obviously he knows what everybody's thinking and stinking and clinking. And many of them rinky-dink-dinking the way they be thinking. And so more than obviously thought, don't they know the one and only king of all kings is the one and only Superfly? Down every hall, on every wall, in every stall, on every phone call, even at every single solitary ball. And so at the time, Peter Van Paul, not Sweeter Peter Palpin, the skin that I more than obviously just jumped. To him, it was just common sense. And he thought without any pretense. In other words, to him, it made more than a lot of sense. In everybody's heaven sense. Everybody. Everybody living. So these birds who appear to not say any words are living. But these birds have bird brains. So you don't believe me, Sweetie Pete, but every camera zoom in now, every move that Peter is making, it's all me. I'm in him. Peter Pal. And so I'm moving the camera. And it is to slam you, and even ram you into the one and only smart, the one and only heart. And so I've walked Peter Sweeter around these rocks many, many times in our walks and talks. And you see, I, the one and only, just slipped Sweeter Peter's shiny slippers, rubber slippers, with no grippers, on those shiny, slippery rocks. And I've dropped him on rocks in the river, be the one and only delivery station, one nation under God, not under frog. And he says to me, Sweetie Petey, Dad, why did you do that? That hurts. And I go, don't worry, it'll only hurt for a minute. I'll heal you. True blue. And so he knows that there's no such thing as an act sinned in. In other words, I've had Peter fall off his once upon a time bicycle over and over and over, like Rover. This was a time in his life full of more than any strife. But he didn't even mind. He knew he had created something in the name of love, not hatred, called the silly source. At the time he called solutions, which I call solutions. Peter loves looking at these big birds fly in the sky. And Peter goes to me, the one and only telepath. Dad, stop talking about me. Sweetie Pete. First of all, nobody gives a shit about me. Sweetie Pete. The reason for all the sleazing and treason on the one and only Smart and the one and only Heart is because of all the jealousy and envy that you do this kiss of bliss through me. So the last person anybody wants to hear about is me, Sweetie Petey. So stop, you, the one and only cop. And I'm serious. It's making me delirious. And I adore you. Nobody's as hilarious as you. The one and only true master healer. And one and only guru. Through me and not through me, Sweetie Pete. Talk about Warren Beatty. Who you tell me doesn't cheaty on the one and only Smart, and the one and only Heart. Tell me about AnGelina on this worldwide in the name of snide and pride, Cena. In other words, Sweetie Peter, he can't believe that he's going to be able to meet AnGelina. Lean on me, the one and only Jolie, the one and only Soul. The one and only more than any holy and unholy and Los Angeles. The New York City of shitty, of pity, of non-witty. He cannot believe that Sweetie Petey will be sitting down in a comfortable couch. Ouch! Talking to somebody named AnGelina Jolie. Even though it's he that the one and only Hollywood me am speaking through the skin of Sweetie Peter Palpin. He doesn't look at himself even like an elf or an elephant. That infant child and the one and only Smart, the one and only Heart. Ah! Stop! You, the one and only cop. Do not say another word about me. Sweetie Petey, tell me about Drew Barrymore and Demi Moore, those two you call Moores, and Roger Moore, who used to be my, well, not my favorite, but one of my favorite heroes when I was growing up, running the movie theater out on the green in Windsor Center, where all seats were always 99 cents. All heaven sent. Because anything in your life, strife or not strife, it's all from me, the one and only. And as I said, just like Barney and Fred, and Wilma and Betty, you make your bed and you lie in it. And this is all from the one and only wicked. And there is no such thing from the one and only King of all kings as an accident. In other words, John Franks, step up to the plate. Dr. John Franks, you tank with me, the one and only. You're ugly, you're smugly, and you're darn wrong fugglier than any fugly. With me, the one and only. And there's one human being on this God-forsaken planet. And Peter knows what I'm going to say from his intuition. But also he hears me when I speak before I speak. It's telepathical, not mathematical. But he knows what I'm going to say. And this ugly, smugly, fugly, despicable, deplorable, horrible, immorable, subhuman being knew this day was coming. Ah, she knew this day was coming and humming. That more than any cunning, and she fears me, the one and only King of all kings. Sharon, no sin. Nell, because she's Nell and the one and only smart, the one and only heart. And sin was because she's a sinner, not a winner with me, the one and only. And what she did to Sweetie Petey is the most despicable, deplorable, horrible, immorable crime of unshine that I could ever flablagen. And flablagen, as you know or may not know, is imagine plus flabbergasted equals flablagen. And so this despicable, deplorable, horrible, immorable woman, not girl, who was so jealous and envious